54% completed. Cloud skills challenge, 35 modules. So let's go ahead and try to finish this, guys. Not much time left. I think कितना time बचा है? Very less time is left. I think one more weekend is left, but still we need to finish this. Lot of stuff pending. So yeah, let's do this. Let's do this. Host a web application with Azure App Service. Okay, let's do this. Azure App Service enables you to build and host web applications in programming language of your choice. Okay. Hmm. Azure App Service enables you to build and host applications in the programming language of your choice without managing infrastructure. All right, bro. That sounds cool. Yeah. Without managing infrastructure. I need some. We're back. We're back. Rodi Kana. Hello, Rodi. How are you? Your personal subscription will not be charged. No worries. Portal.azure.com. No worries. Default directory. Cool. Cool. Okay. Activate Sandbox. Let's activate the Sandbox. For more info, review permissions. Accept permissions. Unstoppable. There you go. Come on, Sandbox. Okay, create a web app. Sign into Azure portal using the same account you used to activate the Sandbox. On the Azure portal menu, from the home page, create a resource. Or from the home page, create a resource. Everything you create on Azure is a resource. Okay, on the Azure portal menu from the home page, select create a resource. Everything, everything you create on Azure is a resource. The create a resource pane appears. Yes, it appears. Here you can search for the resource you want to create or select one of the popular resources that people create in Azure portal. Okay. Kubernetes service, DevOps starter, hmm, storage account. Okay. So these are the popular servers. Getting started, Rocket. Never mind. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's see. On everything you create on Azure is a resource. The create a resource pane appears. Here you can search for the resource you want to create or select one of the popular resources that people create in Azure portal. Okay, select create a resource menu. In the create resource menu, select web. Web. Hmm. Select web app if you don't see it in the search box. In the search box, search for and select web app. The create web app pane. Create web app pane appears. On the basics tab, enter the following values. Okay. Enter the following values for each setting. Subscription concierge, subscription resource group, select learn. The resource group to which the web app will belong. All the resource Azure resources must belong to a resource group. Okay. Name. Create a unique name. The name of your web app. This name will be part of your app URL. App name.azure must be unique among all Azure web apps. Okay. All Azure web apps. So AB web app learn. Cool. Publish code. This method, the method you want to publish your application. When publishing an application as code, you must all configure runtime stack to prepare app service resources to run your app. Runtime stack, select .NET Core 3.1 LTS. Select operating system Linux. What? Okay, okay. Microsoft, you want us to run it? Okay, cool. All right, yeah. Select Linux, region, Central US, app service plan, Linux plan, accept default. The name of app service plan will power your app. Okay, the name of app service plan that will power your app. By default, the wizard will create a new plan in the same region as the web app. In the same region as the web app. SKU and size free F1. The pricing tier of the service plan SKU and size determines the performance characteristic virtual servers that power your app and the features it has to access. it has access to. To select the F1 tire, select change size to open the spec picker wizard. Okay, spec picker wizard, and select dev test and select F1 and then apply. Cool, 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 cool. Constant range, learn, and then your website name, .NET Core, Linux, Central US, pre F1, select review and create. Portal shows the deployment pane. Okay, review and pane and then select create. Bro, bro. Mm, 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 mm. Deployment is in progress. Okay, okay, deployment, please progress. Okay, it can take a minute for deployment to complete. Perfect, perfect. It can take a minute to deployment to complete. Preview your web app. When deployment is complete, select go to resource. The portal shows app service overview pane for your web app. Hmm. Okay. Portal shows app service preview pane for your web app. To preview web app default content, select URL on the top right. Select go to resource. The portal shows the app service preview pane. Cool. And then select the URL on the top right. AB web app learn to preview the web app's default page. Cool. This is the default page. Hello, .NET Core developers. Your app service is up and running. Time to take the next step and deploy your code. Leave the browser tab with the new apps placeholder page open. You will come back to it after you have deployed your app. Cool, 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 cool. Great work. Continue. All right. Bootstrap a web application. Now that you created the resources for deploying your web application, you will have to prepare a code you want to deploy. There are many ways to bootstrap a new web application, so that you will see here maybe so that we'll see here maybe different you're used to. Quickly provide starting point to complete a full cycle up to the deployment. All the code commands shown in the page are only for explanation purpose. You do not need to execute any of them. You will use them in subsequent exercise. Okay, okay, got it. So the .NET command line tool that's part of .NET SDK allows you to directly create the code for a new web application. Okay, Okay, okay. Approving sign-in request. Okay, there was an error signing in. No problem. Don't try. Don't sign in me. Cool, 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 cool. Never mind. The .NET command line tool that's part of the .NET SDK allows you to directly create the code for a new web application. In particular, the .NET New can be used to generate a new application from a template. Okay, .NET New MVC name your app name. This command will create a new ASP.NET Core MVC application in a new folder with the name specified. This command will create new ASP.NET Core MVC application in a new folder with the name specified. Adding your code to source control after you create your web application is ready. Next step is usually to put the code in source control repository such as Git. If you have Git installed on your machine, run these commands on your source code folder will initialize the repository. Git init, git add. Cool. These commands will allow you to initialize the local Git repository and create first commit with your code. This The immediate benefit you gain is the ability to keep a history of your changes with commits. Later on, you will be able to synchronize your local repository with remote repository. For example, hosted on GitHub. This will allow you to set up continuous integration and continuous delivery deployment while using a source control repository. While using a source control repository is recommended for production application, it is not a requirement to be able to deploy application in Azure Web Service. Okay. Deploy an application to Azure App Service. Node using CI/CD enables more frequent code deployment in a reliable manner by automating builds, tests, and deployments for every code change. It allows delivering new features and bug fixes for your applications faster and more effectively. Faster and more effectively. Okay. No worries, no worries, no worries. Next unit exercise: write code to implement a web application. Never mind, never mind. Exercise, write code to implement a web application. Next, let's write the code. Sign in to activate the sandbox. Sure, why not? In this unit, you'll use developer tools to create the code for a starter web application. In this unit, you will use developer tools. Oh, cool. I got a shoe. All right, let's go. Create a new web project. At the heart of the .NET CLI, okay, the heart of .NET CLI tools is the .NET command line tool. Use this command. Using this command, you will create a new ASP.NET Core web project. Let's first install the appropriate version of .NET into the Cloud Shell. For this exercise, we'll be using SDK version 3.1.102. Run the following commands in the Azure Cloud Shells on the right to download and install .NET. Okay. wget qo .NET install.bash version, export path .NET path bash rc, echo export path bash rc. Okay. Ooh, nice. Okay. Eager export bash rc. Next, run the following command to create to create a new ASP.NET Core MVC application named Best Bike App. Okay, let's do that. Woo! Welcome to .NET Core SDK 3.1 telemetry. CLI telemetry. The .NET Core collects usage data in order to help us improve. The data is anonymous. It's collected by Microsoft and shared with the community. You can opt out of telemetry. .NET CLI telemetry output environment variable to 1 or true using your favorite shell. Opt out. Output nahi opt out. Okay. Read more about .NET Core CLI tools telemetry. Explore documentation, .NET docs, GitHub, learn, ruin everything. Getting ready. The template ASP.NET Core Web App Model View Controller was created successfully. This template contains technologies from parties other than Microsoft. Ooh. See third party notices for details. Okay, never mind. Running .NET restore on bike dash restore completed. Restore succeeded. Okay. The command will create new folder named Best Bike Apps to hold your project. All right. Let's see. Yes, there's this project called Cloud Drive. Hmm. Optionally test your web app. Open a second command shell session. For example, browsing to shell.azure.com. Okay. You can test your application. You can test your application locally on Azure. To do so, use following steps. cd bestbycap.net run. You should get something like following. The output describes the situation after starting your app. The application is running and listening on port 5000. From your second command shell, run the following command to browse your. Hmm, oops. Run the following command to browse your web application. Curl kl. You should see some HTML appear ending with the following lines. From your primary command shell session, press Ctrl C to exit your web app. Okay, deploy your code. Alright, deploy code to app service. Now let's see how we can deploy your application to app service. Automated deployment. Automated deployment or continuous integration is a process to push out the new features and bug fixes in a fast and repetitive pattern with minimal impact on end users. Azure supports automated deployment directly from several resources. The following options are available. Mhm. Automated deployment. Automated deployment or continuous integration is a process used to push out new features and bug fixes in a fast and repetitive pattern with minimal impact on end users. Azure supports automated deployment directly from several resources. The following options are available. Azure supports automated deployment directly from several sources. Azure supports automated deployment directly from several sources. The following options are available. Azure DevOps, you can push code to Azure DevOps, previously Visual Studio Team Server, build your code in the cloud, run tests, generate a release from the code, and finally push your code to an Azure web app. Okay. Dev.azure.com. Sign into Azure DevOps. Yeah, boy. Yeah, boy. Yeah, boy. Yeah, new organization. Continue. Organization. Okay. Hmm. I don't know what it is right now. Okay, never mind. Okay, you can push your code to Azure DevOps, previously known as Visual Studio Team Services, build your code in the cloud, run tests, generate a release from the code, and finally push your code to an Azure web app. GitHub Azure supports automated deployment directly from GitHub, where you connect your GitHub repository to Azure for automated deployment. Any changes you push to production branch on GitHub will be automatically deployed for you. Bitbucket, with its similarities to GitHub, you can configure an automated deployment with Bitbucket. OneDrive, Microsoft's cloud-based storage. You must have a Microsoft account linked to OneDrive to deploy to Azure. And Dropbox, Azure supports deployment from Dropbox. Okay, which is popular cloud-based storage system that is similar to OneDrive. Okay, all right, sounds good. Manual deployment. There are a few options that you can use to manually push your code to Azure. Git app service web app feature Git URL that you can add as remote repository. Pushing to the remote repository will deploy your app. Git URL that you can add as remote repository. Is it web app up? Web app up is a feature of Is it command line interface that packages your app and deploys it. Unlike other deployment methods, Is it web app can create a new app service web app for you if you haven't already created one. Zip deploy. Use Is it web app deployment source config zip to send a zip of your application file to app service. Zip deploy can also be accessed via basic HTTP utilities curl, such as curl. Okay. War deploy. It's an app service deployment mechanism specifically designed to deploy Java web applications using War packages. War deploy can be accessed using Kudu HTTP API located at HTTP API war deploy. If this fails, try HTTPS war deploy. Visual Studio features app service deployment wizard where that can walk you through the deployment process. FTP or FTPS is a traditional way of pushing your code to many hosting environments, including app service. Deploy your code to app service. Okay. Deploy your code. In this unit, you'll deploy your web application to app service. Deploy with zip deploy. Let's deploy the .NET application with zip deploy. First, use .NET Publish to build the final app files and zip to package them into a zip file. Okay. So yeah, let's get into test bike app .NET Publish. Oops. .NET Publish output pub cd pub zip or site.zip star. Finally, perform the deployment with AZ Web App Deployment Source config zip. Replace your app name in the following command with the name of your Azure Web App and run it. Okay. Unstoppable. Holy crap. Okay. With the name of Azure Web App and run it. What the hell is this name? I can put any name. Let me try to put any name. AB Learn Azure. AB Web App Zip. Yeah, let me run this. AB Web App Deployment Source Config Zip Site Zip and then resource group. Love it. Okay, yeah. Getting SCM resource not found. Alright, now I know it should be AB Web App Learn. Should be name of your this app service AB Web App Learn. Alright, let's do that. Getting SCM site credentials for zip deployment, starting zip deployment. Okay, deployment endpoint responded with the status code 2, not 2. Alright, neat. Deployment endpoint responded. Okay, push deployer. There you go. Verify the deployment. Okay, let's browse your application and see it. Like navigate back to open the browser tab. Uh-huh. Navigate back to the browser tab containing the placeholder page and refresh it. Best bike app. Holy moly. Are you kidding me? Are you seriously kidding me? Are you seriously kidding me? Kidding me? You have successfully hosted your new ASP.NET Core application in App Service. Cool. Somebody you have successfully created and deployed a web application to Azure App Service. App Service simplifies managing and controlling your web app in comparison to traditional hosting options. Your App Service plan can help you reduce the time and effort spent running and managing your web app and provide advanced cloud features such as auto scaling and Git integration. Sandbox automatically cleans up your resources when you're finished with this module. When you are working with your own software, it's a good idea at the end of the project to still to identify whether you still need the resources you created. Resources left running can cost you money. You can delete resources individually or delete the resources to delete the entire set of resources. Hmm. Continuous deployment. All right. True or false? Azure App Service can automatically scale your web application to meet traffic demand. Yes, it can. Which of the following isn't a valid automated deployment source? SharePoint. Congratulations. Congratulations. Great. I like the hands-on learning. I like the format. I like the experience. Continue. There you go. Oops. What is next? Host a web application with Azure App Service 100% next. Protect your virtual machine setting with. Yeah. Next up is protect your virtual machine settings with Azure Automation state configuration. Okay, this sounds interesting. Protect your virtual machine settings with Azure Automation state configuration. Azure Automation state configuration. All right. All right. All right. Everything's gonna be all right. Okay, let's do that. Let's do that. Ah, CPU 26%, which is okay. 3.46 gigahertz. Holy, holy, ho. How to turn on boost CPU. System utilities screen. How to enable turbo boost. Uh-huh. Never mind, never mind, never mind, never mind. It's a fucking good PC, man. It's a great PC. Alright, never mind. Okay, yeah, where were we? Protect your virtual machine settings with Azure automation. Alright, it's 10 p.m. Okay, yeah, protect your virtual machine settings with Azure automatic state configuration. Okay, yeah. Protect your virtual machine settings with Azure automation state configuration. Okay. Create a desired state configuration script that checks that IIS is installed. Create a desired state configuration script that checks that IIS is installed. Okay, desired state configuration script. Whoa, 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 whoa. That IIS is installed onboard virtual machines for management by Azure Automation. Automatically install IIS on the VMs that where that feature is missing. Awesome. Now that's what we're talking about. Okay, learning objective in this module, you will identify the capabilities of Azure Automation state configuration, learn how to onboard VMs for management by Azure Automation, learn how to onboard VMs for management by Azure Automation, automatically update VMs to maintain a desired state configuration. Automatically update VMs to maintain a desired state configuration. Cool. Cool, 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 cool. Dum, 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 dum. All right, looks good. Let's see. Let's start this module and let's learn. When you deploy a set of virtual machines to host a production system, it's essential that all of the VMs have the same state. Okay, it's essential that all of the VMs have the same state. They must have same services installed. That all the VMs have the same state. They must have same services installed. The VMs should be configured in a way and the VM should be configured in the same way, and the software on each machine must be the same version. VMs should be configured in the same way, and the software on each machine must be the same version. The configuration of each VM can drift. You can end up with systems that are prone to failure because of incompatibilities in the setup of each machine. Azure Automation State Configuration addresses many of the problems associated with deploying at scale and managing configuration drift. Imagine you are an administrator for a retail company that uses Azure virtual machines to host its website. Imagine you are an administrator for a retail company that uses Azure virtual machine to host its website. Recently, one of your VMs was redeployed without the Windows IIS web server feature installed. This issue made your website behave unpredictably. To reduce the time you spend on troubleshooting and managing the configuration consistency across your VMs, you decide to set up Azure Automation State Configuration. Learning objectives, you will identify the capabilities of Azure Automation State Configuration, learn how to onboard VMs for management by Azure Automation, and automatically update VMs to maintain a desired state configuration. Okay, yeah, let's do that. All right, Azure, what is Azure Automation State Configuration? You use Azure Automation State Configuration to make sure that the virtual machines in a cluster are in consistent state with the same software installed and same configurations. In this unit, you will learn about the features and capabilities of Azure Automation. You will review the declarative model of PowerShell Desired State Configuration (DSC). In this unit, you will learn about the features and capabilities of Azure Automation. In this unit, you will learn about features and capabilities of Azure Automation. You'll review the declarative model of PowerShell Desired State Configuration. You'll explore its benefits. You'll Desired state configuration and you'll explore its benefits. Okay. The Azure Automation State Configuration is an Azure service built on PowerShell. It enables you to consistently deploy, reliably monitor, and automatically update the desired state of all your resources. Azure Automation provides tools to define configurations and apply them to real and virtual machines. Azure Automation provides tools to define configurations and apply them to real and virtual machines. Apply them to real and virtual machines. Why use Azure Automation State Configuration? Manually maintaining a correct and consistent configuration for servers that run your services can be difficult and error prone. Azure Automation State Configuration uses PowerShell DSC to help address these challenges. It centrally manages your DSC artifacts and DSC processes. Azure Automation State Configuration has a built-in pull server. You can target nodes to automatically receive configuration from this pull server. Azure Automation State has a built-in pull server. Okay. Manually maintaining a correct and consistent configuration for servers that run your services can be difficult and error-prone. Azure Automation State Configuration uses PowerShell DSC to help address these challenges. It centrally manages your DSC artifacts and the DSC processes. Azure Automation State Configuration has a built-in pull server. You can target nodes to automatically receive configurations from this pull server. Okay. You can target nodes to automatically receive configurations from this pull server, conform to the desired state, and report back to their compliance. Report back on their compliance. You can target virtual or physical Windows or Linux machine in the cloud or on premises. You can use Azure Monitor to monitor logs to review the compliance of your nodes by configuring Azure Automation State Configuration to send this data. Okay, sounds good. What is PowerShell DSC? PowerShell DSC is declarative management platform that Azure Automation State Configuration uses to configure, deploy, and control systems. A declarative programming language separates intent, what you want to do, from execution, how do you want to do it. You specify the desired state and let DSC do the work to get there. You don't have to know how to implement or deploy a feature when a DSC resource is available. Instead, you focus on structure of your deployment. If you are already using PowerShell, you might wonder why you need DSC. Consider following example. When you want to create a share on Windows Server, you might use this PowerShell command. Create a file share, new SMB share, C shared full access user 1, read access user 2. The script is straightforward and easy to understand. However, if you use the script in production, you'll encounter several problems. Consider what might happen if the script runs multiple times or if user 2 already has full access rather than read only access. This approach isn't idempotent. What is idempotent? Relating to being a mathematically point which when applied to itself under a given binary. Relating to or being an operation under which a mathematical quantity is idempotent. equals itself. Acha. Without changing the result. Okay. This approach isn't idempotent. Idempotence describes an operation that has the same effect when you run it once or 1000, 10,001 times. To achieve idempotence in PowerShell, you need to add logic and error handling. If the file share doesn't exist, you create it. If share exists does exist, then no need to create it. If user 2 exists but doesn't have read access, you add read access. Your PowerShell script would look something like share exists false, SMB share get SMB share name. If SMB share null, share with the name exists. Yes. Other special cases, okay, yeah. So then, right, we're creating a share, new SMB share. Else need to call either set MB share or share contains key change access. Other special cases you haven't considered might come to light only when problem arise. So haven't considered. DSC handles unexpected cases automatically. With DSC, you describe the results rather than the process to achieve the final achieved result. The following DSC snippet shows an example. Configuration, create share, import DSC resource module XM. A node describes the VM to be configured. Node name. A node definition contains one or more resource blocks. A resource block describes the resource to be configured on the node. SMB share my SMB share ensure present name, path, read access, full access, description. The example above uses XSMB share module, which tells DSC how to check the state of a file share. The DSC resource kit has more than 80 resource modules, including one for installing an IaaS site. You'll find a link to the DSC resource kit at the end of the module. At the end of the module, you'll learn more about the structure of PowerShell DSC code in the next unit. You'll learn more about the structure of PowerShell DSC code. What is the LCM? The Local Configuration Manager (LCM) is a component of Windows Management Framework on a Windows operating system. The LCM (Local Configuration Manager) is responsible for updating the state of a node, like a VM, to match the desired state. Every time the LCM runs, it completes following steps. Get the current state of node. Test, compare the current state of node against the desired state by using a compiled DSC script MF file. Set, update the node to match the desired state described in the MOF file. Interesting. You configure the LCM when you register a VM with Azure Automation. Okay. You configure LCM when you register the VM with Azure Automation. Push and pull architectures and DSC. The LCM on each node can operate in two modes. Push mode, an administrator manually sends or pushes the configuration to one or more nodes. The LCM makes sure the state on each node matches for the configuration. Pull mode. A pull server holds the configuration information. The LCM on each node the pull server at regular intervals. Polls the pull server at regular intervals. A pull server holds the configuration. The LCM on each node pulls the pull server at regular intervals. By default, every 15 minutes. Okay. LCM on each node pulls the pull server at regular intervals by default every 15 minutes to get the latest configuration details. These requests are denoted as step 1 in the following diagram. In step 2, the server sends the details about any configuration changes back to each node. In pull mode, each node has to be registered with pull service. Both modes have advantages. Push mode is easy to set up. It doesn't need its own dedicated infrastructure and it can run on a laptop. Push mode is helpful to test the functionality of DSC. Push mode is helpful to test the functionality of DSC. You could also use push mode to get a machine, newly imaged machine to the baseline desired state. You could also use push node mode to get a newly imaged machine to the baseline desired state. You could also use push mode. Push mode is easy to set up. It doesn't need its own dedicated infrastructure and it can run on a laptop. Push mode is helpful to test the functionality of DSC. You could also use push mode to get newly imaged machine to the baseline desired state. Pull mode is useful in an enterprise deployment that spans a large number of machines. The LCM regularly polls the pull server and makes sure the nodes are in the desired state. If an external tool or team applies hot fixes that result in configuration drift on individual machines, those machines are quickly brought back in line with the configuration you have set. The process can help you achieve a state of continuous compliance for your security and regulatory obligations. All right, all right, all right. Pull mode is useful in an enterprise that spans large number of machines. LCM regularly polls the pull server. Make sure the nodes are in desired state. If an external tool or team applies hotfixes that results in configuration drift on individual machine, those machines are quickly brought back in line with the configuration you have set. This process can help you achieve a state of continuous compliance for your security and regulatory obligations. This process can help you achieve a state of continuous compliance for its security and regulatory obligations. Security and regulatory obligations. All right, supported platforms and operating systems. Azure Automation DSC is supported by Azure Cloud Services and other cloud providers, your on-premises infrastructure, or a hybrid of all these environments. Azure Automation DSC supports following operating system: Windows Server 2019, 16, 12, 11, 10, 8.17, Linux, most variants, but not Debian or Ubuntu 18.04. Partial DSC is installed on all Linux machines supported by Azure Automation DSC. Okay. DSC requirements for Windows. For Windows machines, the Azure Desired State Configuration VM extension uses WMF to manage the versions of Windows. Features like Windows PowerShell DSC and Windows Remote Management. Azure DSC supports WMF 4.0 and later. So Windows machine must run Windows Server 2008, Windows 7 or later. WMF 4.0 later. The first time the Azure DSC extension is called, it installs an operating system compatible version of WMF on all Windows versions except Windows Server 2016 and later. Windows Server 2 and later versions already have the latest version of WMF installed. After WMF is installed, the machine requires a restart. WinRM is enabled on machine nodes that run Windows Server 2012 or later and Windows 7 or later. Proxy support for DSC agent is available on Windows builds 1809 or later. Proxy support for DSC agent is available. Windows builds 1809. Proxy support is unavailable in DSC for previous version of Windows. Okay. Other DSC requirements. Hmm. If your nodes are located in a private network, if your nodes are located in a private network, DSC needs the following port and URLs to communicate with Azure Automation. If your nodes are located in private network, DSC needs the following port and URLs to communicate with Azure Automation. If your nodes are located in a private network, DSC needs the following port and URLs to communicate with Azure Automation. If your nodes are located in a private network, if your nodes are located in a private network, DSC needs the following port and URLs to communicate with Azure Automation. Only TCP/443 is required for outbound internet access. Global URL .azureautomation.net. Global URLs of US government Virginia. What the hell? Why the US government Virginia? And agent service dot azureautomation.net. Check in on it. What is Azure Automation State Configuration? A declarative state management platform to configure, deploy, and control system. A service used to write, manage, compile, PowerShell, Dsc configuration, import Dsc resource configuration. A service that manages state configuration on each destination. A PowerShell Dsc script contains the steps required to configure a virtual machine to get into specified state. Is idempotent describes the desired state. Azure Automation. What is Azure Automation State Configuration? A declarative management platform to configure, deploy, and control system. Okay, PowerShell DSC script describes the desired state. Why should you use pull mode instead of push mode? Pull mode is best for complex that need redundancy and scale. Pull mode is easy to set up and doesn't need its own dedicated. Pull node needs its dedicated. Pull mode uses the logical to make sure that state on each node matches best. It's best for complex environment. Whoo! Okay, use PowerShell DSC to achieve a desired state. You use PowerShell DSC to specify the desired state of VM. In this unit, you will learn more about PowerShell DSC and how to use it to control the state of your VMs. In this example scenario, you use PowerShell DSC to make sure that IIS for Windows servers is installed and configured consistently across all your web servers. By the end of this unit, you will understand node and configuration blocks. You'll understand node and configuration blocks, understand credential assets, write PowerShell DSC code to install Microsoft IIS idempotently. Okay, understand node and configuration, understand credential assets, write PowerShell DSC code to install and manage IIS idempotent. DSC resources. You have seen that PowerShell DSC is declarative scripting language. Declarative programming focuses on the outcome, not the journey. When you need to configure and deploy an Azure resource in a consistent way across a set of VMs, PowerShell DSC can help. You can use PowerShell DSC even when you are not familiar with technical steps to install and configure the software and services. Windows Server has a set of built-in PowerShell DSC resources you can view these resources by running get dsc resource PowerShell commandlet. Okay, let's see. Uh-huh. File manages files and folders on a node, archive, decompress, and archive in the zip format. Decompress and archive in the zip format environment, manage system environment variables, log, write some message in the DSC event log, package installs or removes a package, registry manages the node, registry key, script executes PowerShell command on a node, service manage Windows services, user manage local users on a node, Windows feature adds or removes a role or feature on a node, Windows optional feature adds or removes an optional feature or feature on a node, Windows process manages a Windows process. Okay. Unstoppable. 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 Blow, 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 blow. Mm. Pew, 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 pew. Pew, 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 pew. Dun, 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 dun. All right, all right. For more complex resources like Active Directory integration, use the DSC resource kit, which is updated. Okay, for more complex resources like Active Directory integration, use DSC resource kit, which is updated monthly. You will find the link to this resource at the end of the module. The resource you want to configure must already be part of the VM or part of VM image. Otherwise, the job will fail to compile and run. Anatomy of a DSC code block. A DSC code block contains four sections. Use the following example to take a closer look. In this example, the numbers aren't part of the syntax. They are denoted as comments and they refer to each sections in the discussion that follows. Configuration, my DSC configuration, new to Windows feature, my feature instance, ensure present name web server. The configuration syntax includes these section configuration. The configuration block is the outermost script block. It starts with the configuration keyword and provide a name. Here the name of the configuration is my DSC configuration. The configuration block describes the desired configuration. Think of a configuration block like a function, except that it contains description of resources to install rather than the code to install them. Like a PowerShell function, a configuration block can take parameters. For example, you could parameterize the node name. Okay, node, you can have one or more node blocks. The node block determines the name of MOF, names of MOF files that are generated when you compile the configuration. For example, the node name localhost generates only one localhost.mof file, but you can send that MOF file to any server. You generate multiple, you can send that MOF file. You generate multiple MOF files when you use multiple node names. Okay. Use the array notation in the node block to target multiple hosts. Okay. For example, node at the rate. Resource. One or more resource blocks can specify the resources to configure. In this case, a single resource block references Windows feature resource. Hmm. The Windows feature resource here ensures that the Windows feature web server is installed. Resource, okay, one or more resource blocks can specify resources to configure. In this case, a single resource block references the Windows feature resource. The Windows feature resource here ensures that the Windows feature web server is installed. MyDSC configuration. This call invokes the MyDSC configuration block. It's like running a function. It's a MyDSC configuration, okay. This calls invokes the configuration block like invoking when you run a configuration, it's compiled into a managed object format. MAF document MAF is compiled language created by Desktop Management Task Force and is based on interface definition language. For every node listed in DSC script, a MOF file is generated in the folder you specified with output path parameter. Hmm. Configuration data in DSC script. In a configuration data block, you can provide data that configuration process might need. You apply this data to named nodes you apply it globally across all nodes. A configuration data block is named block that contains array of nodes. The array must be named all nodes. Configuration data block, okay. Inside inside the all node array, you specify the data for a node by using node name variable. Hmm. Using the previous scenario, let's say on the web server that's installed on each node, you want to set the site name property to different values. You could define a configuration data block like this. If you want to set a property to the name same value in each node in the all node array, specify node name star. Okay, if you want to set a property to the same value in each node, set a property to the same value in each node in the all nodes array, specify node name is equals to star. Secure credentials in DSC script. A DSC script might require credential information for configuration process. Avoid putting a credential in plain text in your source code management tool. Instead, Dsc configuration in Azure Automate can reference credentials stored in a PS credential object. You define a parameter in for the DSC script by using the PS credential type. Before running the script, get the credentials for the user, use the credentials to create a new credential object and pass this object into the script as parameter and pass this object into the script as parameter. Credentials aren't encrypted in MOF files by default, they are exposed as plain text. To encrypt credentials, use a certificate in your configuration data. The certificate's private key needs to be on the node on which you want to apply the configuration. Certificates are configured through the node's LCM. Starting in PowerShell 5.1, MOF files on the node are encrypted at rest. In transit, all credentials are encrypted through WinRM. Bro. Push the configuration to a node. After you create a compiled MOF file for a configuration, you can push it to a node by running the start dsc configuration commandlet. If you add the path to the directory, it applies any MOF file it finds in that directory to the node. Start dsc configuration part D. This step corresponds to push mode, which you learned about in the previous unit. Push mode. The pull configuration for the nodes. If you have hundreds of VM on Azure, pull mode is more appropriate than push mode. You can configure an Azure automation account to act as pull service. Just upload the configuration to the automation account, then register your VMs in this account. You can configure an Azure automation account to act as pull service. Just upload the configuration to the automation account, then register your VMs to this account. Before you compile your configuration, import into your automation account any PowerShell module the DSC process needs. These modules define how to complete the task to achieve the desired state. For example, a DSC script in the previous unit used the XSMB share PowerShell module to tell DSC how to check the state of a file share. DSC automatically pulls modules from automation account to the node. DSC automatically pulls modules from the automation accounts to the node. Okay, before you compile your configuration and import into your automation account any PowerShell module DSC process needs. These modules define how you complete the task to achieve the desired state. For example, a DSC script in the previous unit used XSMB share PowerShell to tell DSC how to check the state of. DSC automatically pulls module from automation account to the node. The following diagram shows how to set up Azure automation state configuration. We'll explore this more in the next unit. User sets up DSC, PowerShell script file, create DSC configuration script, Azure automation, create Azure automation account, upload DSC configuration, edit required modules, compile configuration, register virtual machine, install DSC VM extension, install WMF, local configuration manager applies desired state. By default, after 15 minutes, the LCM on the VM polls Azure automation for any changes to the DSC configuration file. By default, after 15 minutes, the LCM on the VM. By default, after 15 LCM on the VM polls Azure automation for any changes to the DSC configuration file. Any changes on the VMs are recorded in the desired state configuration. If you change the configuration, you can upload it to the automation account to automatically reconfigure VMs. The following diagram shows the LCM process to manage the desired state on the VM. Azure Automation Pull Server, VM Pulls DSC, poll, download, compare, update. To manage the desired state on the VM. Credentials are handled natively by your automation account. This management reduces the complexity of securing and working with credentials. Hmm. Set up a DSC and configure. Set up a DSC and configure a desired state. In this exercise, you'll create an Azure automation account and upload a PowerShell DSC. You will also onboard an existing VM into Azure automation. If the VM is missing IIS, then run code to install and configure IIS on the VM. Create a VM. Start by deploying a new VM from a Windows Server 2019 image. In the Azure Cloud Shell, run following commands to create a username and generate a random password. Okay. Run the following command in Cloud Shell to create a VM. Is it VM create username and password? It takes a few minutes to create the VM and supporting resources. If the VM is created successfully, you should see the output like this. Mhm. Copy the public IP address in this output. You'll need this address later in the exercise to access the VM. Run the following command in Cloud Shell to open your VM's port 80 for web traffic. In your browser, go to the public IP address or your VM. Although port 80 is open, your connection should time out. This error occurs because IIS isn't deployed on your VM. We'll fix that in this exercise. Cool, 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 cool. Cool, 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 cool. Cool, 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 cool. Okay, cool. Sounds good. Do, 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 do. All right, yeah, there you go. I got a public IP. Let us copy this public IP. Let's copy. There you go. Let's try to access this URL. HTTP public, although port it is not open, site cannot be reached. Okay, yeah, we'll fix that. Use the Microsoft Learn account to sign into Azure portal. Okay, let's sign into Azure portal. On Azure portal resource menu on the home, select create a resource pane occurs, and select search services and marketplace types for and enter automation and then press enter to view the create a resource, search services and marketplace automation. Hmm. To view the search results. Automation and then press enter to view the search results. Holy moly. In automation cells, select automation, Azure service published by Microsoft. Create a resource, automation, and then select automation published by Microsoft. Enter plus enter to view the on automation search results. Select automation Azure service published by Microsoft. Azure service published by Microsoft. Select create the create an automation account pane appears. Site cannot be reached. Create an automation account pane appears. Enter the following values for each subscription. Consyringe subscription. Consyringe. Consyringe. Surge. Concierge. Concierge subscription. Resource group. Select the existing resource group in the drop down list. Yes. And name your automation account name. This value must be globally unique in Azure. We suggest using your initials automation account. Use this name wherever you see your automation account name. Okay. Okay, so this should be my initials and then automation account. Da, 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 da. And region accept the default. Accept default location, select create. Wait until the automation account is deployed. Select go to resource when deployment completes. Automation account pane for your resource appears. Create DSC. In Cloud Shell, run the following command to start Powershell session. Shell.azure.com. PWSH. Okay, yeah. PWSH. Partial. Never mind. So yeah, let's go to resource. Automation account pane appears for your automation account pane for your resource appears. Okay, yeah, so where were we? Create a DSC configuration, add PowerShell command prompt, run the following command to open a new file named my DSC configuration. Enter the following code block file in the file. This code creates a configuration to install IS. If it's not installed already, the code then runs the script and runs the script to compile the configuration. Press Control S to save the file in your home directory and then Control Q to close the editor. And your PowerShell session, enter the following code replacing your automation account with the name of your automation account resource to upload the DSC script into your Azure automation account. Okay. Import Azure automation. You need to replace it with your automation account name. This command should produce the output that looks like this. Rest US, never mind. Add required modules, optional. After you upload the DSC configuration script, okay, what is my DSC configuration? Windows feature, my feature instance, ensure present web server, okay. Okay, after you upload your DSC configuration script, import any PowerShell modules that DSC process needs. Our configuration doesn't need any other modules, so we can skip this step. If you need to import or add modules into your automation account, you would go to shared resources and select modules and then add modules. Shared resources, modules, and then add module. What the hell? Already so many downloads. Wow. Never mind. Yeah, so this is how you can add Azure. Okay, an automation account. No worries. Compile the DST script in Azure portal. The overview pane of your Azure automation account should still be displayed. In the automation account menu under configuration, select state configuration. The state configuration pane for your automation account appears. Then select configurations tab. Then select configurations tab. Verify that the configuration my dsc configurations tab and my dsc configuration appears. And then select it. Then select it. Mhm. The my dsc configuration pane appears. Okay, configuration pane appears. Yeah. In the command bar, select compile. Is it still running? What is running? Select compile. In the compile DSC configuration, select yes. Any node configurations generated will be automatically placed full server. If node configuration with the same name exists, they will be overwritten. Compilation job succeeded. Check your notifications. Notification icon is the global. Okay, wait for the compilation job to show status of completed, which may take several minutes. No, you may need to refresh to see the status change. To refresh in the top left breadcrumb path, what else? Select your automation account. The state configuration DSC pane appears. Select refresh and then select the my configuration. To return to the my configuration page, under the compilation jobs tab, the status should now appear as completed. Status completed. When the compilation is completed, close the my DSC configuration pane. Your state configuration pane appears. Register VM with your Azure automation account. On the state configuration pane, state configuration DSC pane for your Azure automation account name, select the nodes tab. Select the nodes tab in the command bar and then select add. The virtual machine pane for your automation account appears. Select the VM you created in the first task of this exercise, my VM. It may take up to 10 minutes for the configuration and the VM to propagate in the network. Wait for a few minutes and then select refresh. VM isn't listed, bro. Where is my VM?